Hey, so I thought I'd do like a walkthrough um, tutorial of my nightly prayer ritual to Allah, to God. This I've come up with like over the course of years. I try to do it nightly. I'm not perfect. There are nights that I miss it, but I use this time generally before bed to sort of decompress, to sort of think through the day and, ponder and contemplate questions I've had or things that I've thought of. And I try to use this time to just make a nice landing before bed. So I thought I'd just do kind of a walkthrough in the routine. I don't think there's any particular way that there has to be in order for someone to commune with God. I'm not by any means saying that this is the only way or that this procedure, this particular procedure that I've landed on, has any more significance than anyone else's personal connection with God. But I thought I'd share this just as a reference point. It all starts at the altar. Um, it all takes place at the altar, as you can see here. I've already lit a candle, and I try to keep things uh, candle lit because I found a lot of times the ambiance that a flame can make. And I have the light on. Normally, I have it like dark, except for the candlelight, but the ambiance that the flame can make, the serenity that it provides, a lot of times really helps with the sense of focus that you really want to try to hone in on. Um, so I also use incense. Incense, to me, sort of invokes again that sort of ambiance or that sort of environment that I feel like you need to have in order to invite the spirit. Um, as you can see on my altar, I have all the setup. Um, and normally I'll begin by just sitting down. I'll light one candle and then I'll light the incense through the candle. This incense is called moon. Um, I'm not exactly sure of the herbal composition of it, but that smells really good. I think this is herbal, natural. There we go. So I get a good smoke going. Um, I like to pass the incense over the deities. As you can see here, there's El and then Ah on the right. Just kind of do a circular pass, um, kind of let it fluctuate through the air all over the altar. Helps to create that environment of invitation. And then I actually have a handy incense holder that I really like. It's like a cast iron tray, if I can get this sucker in there. And this will just balance here. I usually won't go through an entire stick, but I'll just let it burn until it concludes. I don't think there's necessarily like an amount of time that it must be or must not be. Um, and then I'll usually light the center candle here. This one is meant to represent the union of El and Ah, the union of God, as it sits in the center. And because of the current season of El, because it's winter, we're now moving closer to spring, but because it's still winter, the season um, generally goes by fall and winter is El, spring and summer is Ah. So, corresponding with that preference, that leaning from one side to the next, I usually put a candle, another candle on either side in front of whichever deity happens to be dominant at the time. So right now it's El, and I actually got this candle. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of a nice like coral orange, but I got this one at a shop, and it's actually like called Dear Mother or something. It's really meant for Mother's Day, but I thought it was appropriate. So I'll set that there in front of L. And I'll just say like quick confirmations, affirmations. I'll acknowledge the presence of L and A respectively. Um, there's no real formula. I don't think there's anything wrong with structure and reliability when it comes to prayer, but I do think there's a lot to be said that the most genuine prayer comes straight from the heart, unscripted. Um, so a lot of times I will either verbalize or I'll say it internally, usually internally, but I'll mention what I'm grateful for. I'll kind of pass through my mind the things that I've observed or the things that I would like to see happen in my life, with the assistance, of course, of the divine. And yeah, you pretty much just sit here and meditate and contemplate. And I think it really helps me. Having this time really helps me to decompress uh, all the build up from the day and all the stuff that just sort of accumulates over the course of the day. It really helps to just set it all in line. And it's almost as if the chaos of a working day, the chaos of a living day, becomes an unrestrained pool of water, if you could imagine. To me, prayer and meditation and reflection, this time this is devoted to, is like putting up banks, as in a river, to that pool of just formless, chaotic water. And the banks help to direct that flow. And it really helps to ease the transition from waking to sleep and then from sleeping to wake. And I think for that reason, prayer is valuable. A lot of times, there can become a misunderstanding as to the nature of prayer, in that prayer is exclusive to wanting or to voicing one's desires to God, to providence, to, the source of all things. But the reality is, in my opinion, that prayer, in as much as it may be for asking for help, it can also be a tool to find the answer within ourselves through reflective thinking. Prayer is as much a gift as it is asking for a gift, so to speak. Prayer helps to mellow. In other words, you don't always have to ask for things. It's also I believe, a healthy and productive and faithful thing to do, to simply observe, and to thank and to remind yourself and maybe your ego of all the great things that you have been blessed with, and not just what you're wanting to be blessed with. I also have this really interesting rock. I got this at a rock shop. It's just a rock. It's just like but it's smooth. It's fairly heavy, and the interesting thing about it is when I first picked it up, the center of its gravity, I mean, it's like circular or spherical sort of, but it almost fits so perfectly into the hand. It makes me wonder, like, because this rock shop a lot of times will import things from the Southwest, like Arizona, Nevada, places like that. Um, and it makes me wonder if this was not some kind of artifact. I mean, it probably was. It's probably just a random rock, but like it fits so well into the human palm that it almost feels ritualistic, even if. But the energy surrounding this rock, I don't know why. It just like I was attracted to it. So a lot of times during my prayer, I'll just sort of use this as a stabilizer, as a sort of physical anchor to with which to focus, and I'll just sort of hold this in the palm of my hand, maybe at my legs, sitting cross-legged, and over time it gathers the warmth of the hand, and um, but it's just really interesting to hold it because you can't really tell, if you know what I mean. You can't really tell where the center of its gravity is, and it just has a really cool energy to it. But I find that it helps to have an object, whether it's, a rock, or you could even use something like beads, you know, prayer beads or whatever, to just sort of whatever helps the concentration of your focus. Um, on the altar here, I have, like I said, the deities of El and Ah, respectively. I also have Thoth. He's here in the middle. And when I'm saying my prayer or when I'm verbalizing it internally, um, I'll offer acknowledgement first to El and Ah as the supreme, as the sort of overarching presence of all things. But secondarily, I'll acknowledge Thoth, who I feel like is um, someone that I really connect with, a deity that I really feel a connection with. And I will address Thoth and speak. Um, it doesn't really matter, I think, the extent to which you offer prayer. It's just however much time you need. And I think it's important to take the time that it takes and to take the time that you need. Like I said, I like to stray away from using templates. Um, but structure can be helpful on the other hand. Whatever works for you is best. But like I said, I will acknowledge El and Ah. I will invite their spirit to be here. Sometimes I'll even play some ambient music in the background very slightly. I found that it really helps with the general environment. Um, and sometimes there's even an instrument that I'll try. Like right now, this camera is actually sitting on the drum I'll sometimes use. Um, but I find that it helps to also use that same motion with your hands, or the percussion instrument like a drum or like a singing bowl maybe, or even just vocals if you wanted to just hum or make noise, perfectly appropriate. And sometimes I just like to revel in the presence that can be here in prayer. When the whole environment sort of takes the shape of that solitude. It's a really interesting thing that sometimes when you're praying, when you're in contemplative state, or when you're not thinking at all, when you let your thoughts just go and just fly away and float away, there's almost an internal isolation that can take place if you just close your eyes and you just for a second, for a moment, imagine nothing except you in a great expanse. And you're sitting in this great luminous expanse, which it's just you in the presence of God. and you close your eyes and imagine that, the clarity that can come from that is invaluable. There's nothing wrong, of course, of keeping the eyes open and just looking, letting your eyes fall on all the items here, or letting them focus on one of the deities or whatever. But I've found over the years that there are so many ways to connect that are readily available. So following the prayer and that, what I'll do is normally put out the incense first. I'm kind of paranoid when it comes to like burning objects. Um, so I'll put out the incense to begin with. And really, really handy, this thing comes as almost like this incense holder almost comes as a bowl. So I can just sort of like a cigarette or something, just put it out. I'll blow out the candles. And a lot of times I like to say, like, please hear my prayer, that type of thing. Or just give kind of a conclusion. Amen is a good one to go to. And then followed by that will just be a general prostration before the altar. And then I consider it concluded. Thanks for watching.